Hi, I'm Connor Quimby.
It's an established fact that Sumerian is the oldest known written language, with archaeological evidence showing the oldest determinably Sumerian inscriptions around 2900 BC, and proto-literate inscriptions plausibly in Sumerian from 3200 BC. That's so long ago that coins were invented as close to today as that earliest Sumerian proto-writing. Sumerian was functionally extinct as a spoken language around 2000 BC, with spoken vestiges lasting until around 1700 BC, and a dwindling usage for religious, astronomical, and literary purposes by the Babylonians and Assyrians until the 1st century BC. Thus, one must wonder, are there any Sumerian words that survived into English, or English words that ultimately derive from Sumerian? And the answer is indeed there are, roughly in 3 categories of words. Naturally, to inflate my watch hours, to build excitement, the most common and surprising words are at the end of the video. I should note that this is basically a compilation and set organization of Wiktionary articles, and the category English terms derived from Sumerian served as my primary source. I also want to preemptively apologize for my pronunciations. Okay, let's get started. Probably the most obvious category, many words regarding Sumerology and ancient Near East studies as a whole directly come from Sumerian. A lot of these are proper nouns relating to Mesopotamian religion, and less recognizable ancient toponyms and demographic names used today for scholarly purposes. We'll start with the ancient toponyms and demographic names. So, we have Dilmun, an ancient civilization in the Persian Gulf centered around Bahrain and Kuwait; Ebla, a kingdom in Syria; Kur, used to refer to the modern-day Zagros Mountains, or a mysterious underworld; Elam, the relatively known ancient civilization in southern Iran, borrowed by Sumerian from the Elamite Halatamti; Emir, the endonym for Sumerian; Emisal, a female sociolect used in Sumerian texts; the Guti, an ancient nomadic people in the Zagros Mountains; Lagash, a notable ancient Sumerian city and important archaeological site; Meluha, a geographical term that likely referred to the Indus Valley civilization; Subartu, the civilization in the area preceding Assyria and then Subarian; Ugarit, and the name for the Semitic Ugaritic language of ancient Syria, ultimately likely from Sumerian Agar, meaning arable land; and Ur and Uruk, very notable cities in ancient Sumer, Acadia, and later Babylon. Just to get these out of the way, let's do a lightning round of some of the Mesopotamian religion proper nouns. We have Anzu, Enki, Enlil, and Hedwana, Ereshkigal, Gilgamesh, Inanna, Marduk, Nana, Nergal, Ninhursag, Ninurta, Nisaba, Sarpanit, and Tammuz. Notably, Tammuz lent his name to the 4th month of the Jewish ecclesiastical calendar and the 10th month of the Jewish civil calendar. Lastly, for the Sumerology section, we have lexical items only really used in the context of Sumerology in ancient Near East studies. Those are Dingir, a generic name for Sumerian deities; Eduba, a building where archives were stored and literary studies were undertaken; Ensi, a ruler of a city-state, probably the most recognizable of these words; Gala, intersex priests of the fertility and warfare goddess Inanna; Kunga, an ancient Mesopotamian equid; and Nunus, an ornamental carved oval stone. The second category is modern toponyms and given names. This is pretty small, but they're relatively impactful. We have Aden, the capital of Yemen, likely from Sumerian Eden, meaning open country as in a plain, steppe, or desert, through Akkadian Edinum. The name Asa, from the Latin and Koine Greek name originating from Biblical Hebrew, born by King Asa of Judah, originally meaning physician or healer, via Aramaic Asya, Akkadian Asu, and originally Sumerian Azu. Eden, as in the Garden of Eden, from whence the given name comes, from Biblical Hebrew Eden, from the same Sumerian root as the aforementioned city of Aden. The river Euphrates, from Sumerian Idburanun, loaned to Akkadian Idparatu, to Old Persian Hufratush, and then ancient Greek Euphrates. And the Tigris River, from Sumerian Idigna, meaning fast as an arrow, to Akkadian Idiglat, to Old Persian Tigra, thence ancient Greek Tigris. Now we're at the section that you actually care about. Lexical items in English with Sumerian etymologies. A lot of these are Scrabble words, which is not to say that they're necessarily valid words in the NASPA word list or the Collins Dictionary, but rather that I expect Nigel Richards to know them and that an earthly person would only know them if they physically interact with the thing. So, here are some Scrabble words with Sumerian origins. Alcaraza, a Spanish and Portuguese porous earthenware jug. The name comes from Arabic al-Quraz via Aramaic and eventually the Akkadian word for basket, Kurziza, which possibly originated from the Sumerian word gursiza, where the root gur meant to twist or bend. Chiton, a unisex ancient Greek tunic originating from Akkadian kitu, meaning flax or linen, from Sumerian gida. Chitons are also a broad kind of mollusk in the Polyplacophora class. You might recognize this if you enjoy classics, but I'm putting it in Scrabble words because there's a more well-known doublet from Sumerian gida, duka. This is a Kenyan English term for a store coming from Swahili duka, Arabic dukan, Aramaic dukana, Akkadian dakanu, meaning private chambers, and ultimately from Sumerian dagan, doorway or chamber. And lastly, Haikal, and its alternate spelling Haikel, which is the central chapel and sanctuary of a Coptic church, from Arabic Haikal, which evolved from a Proto-West Semitic word borrowed from Akkadian Ekalum, from Sumerian Egal, meaning big temple or palace. And now for the meat of this video, the everyday words that ultimately originate from Sumerian. First up are words that derive from the word gina, meaning reed, via Akkadian kanu to Koine Greek kana into Latin and thus eventually much of Europe. Kana directly became cane in English via Old French, referring to stalked grasses and plants, and thus tools derived from or resembling canes. No need to walk like an Egyptian when you can walk like a Sumerian. Kana was directly borrowed by Old Latin as canalis and underwent semantic shift to mean a pipe, groove, or spout. English then borrowed this to get canal, as in an artificial waterway, and borrowed Middle French's descendant chanel as the modern English channel. From the Italian cana, meaning cane, tube, or pipe, and the augmentative suffix one, we get canone, loaned across Europe to give us cannon. Two notable Scrabble words originating with Sumerian gina are kennel, an obsolete term for a gutter, surface drain, or puddle, from Latin canalis, and canigre, a wild rhubarb native to the southwestern United States used for tanning, from the Mexican-Spanish caña agria, literally cane sour. The next word is chanterelle, as in the mushrooms, borrowed via French from the Latin cantarus, meaning drinking vessel, which comes from the ancient Greek kantaros, a word likely of pre-Greek origin, loaned from or cognate with Akkadian kanduru, meaning kind of vessel, ultimately from Sumerian ganutur, meaning a small vessel or container. And that one kind of makes sense. Okay, next one. This is a big one. Divan. So divan has multiple meanings. It originally stems from the Sumerian word dub, meaning tablet, through Akkadian tupum, meaning tablet or letter, to Elamite and then Old Persian dipivanaham, meaning document house, to the Middle Persian dewan, meaning archive or collective writings, we get a lot of words. Middle Persian dewan shifted to Iranian Persian divan, and this was loaned into Ottoman Turkish, where semantic shift led divan to refer to an Ottoman or broadly Muslim council of state or that room itself, hence we also get the archaic usage of any council or assembly in English, and thereby a dated term for an establishment selling cigars and coffee with chess and books for entertainment. Divan also survived with the original Iranian semantics in Ottoman Turkish to refer to a collection of poems, which is now used specifically for Arabic or Persian language poems. But the main surviving meaning is that of the style of couch, fashioned from a mattress lying against the wall and on the floor, as this is what Ottoman viziers sat on in the divan room, similar to how we also loaned their footrests. A few Scrabble words also originate from the Middle Persian Dewan, including Diwania, a Kuwaiti guest room or that social gathering, Dewan, a counselor or holder of office in Muslim countries from Hindu divan, meaning tribunal or minister of state, and douane, a mostly archaic term for a custom house across various European and world languages via medieval Latin and Andalusian Arabic. I only found one word from Sumerian that kept its true original meaning, and although it's a relatively recent loanword to English, I still think it's pretty recognizable. That word is tandur, or tanduri, ultimately from the Sumerian shurin, meaning just oven, through Akkadian tinuru, classical Persian tanur, and borrowed into English from Hindi tandur. So, next time you're at an Indian restaurant and see a tandoori oven, you'll know that that's a redundant duplication, and that implies that there's an oven for ovening ovens. We also have a Scrabble word doublet, athanor from Arabic at-tanur, meaning the baker's oven, which was a historical furnace used by alchemists to provide an equal heat distribution. Lastly in this video is tunic, which probably comes from the same Akkadian root kitu as seen in chiton, but instead from the Aramaic word kituna, loaned into Hebrew and then Latin. We also get the Scrabble word tunica, which semantically shifted from the Latin meaning of a covering to be used in anatomical terms variously from membranes in blood vessels and reproductive organs. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video and learned something. I sure did researching this. Thanks to my supporters on Patreon who help keep this channel running. So thank you to John Costello, Andrew B., Addie, Alan, Eden, The Wub, Alexis, Elijah, Fatafioka, Officegobble, Cactus, Acorn, Albert Jones, and Talatech. Hope you enjoyed the video and see you guys next time.